Hey guys, welcome to my day on the plate. I am going to be starting with breakfast. I don't always eat breakfast because a few days a week I participate in intermittent fasting and I usually just skip breakfast until like 11 or 12 in the morning. So some of the things I eat throughout the day, there is a recipe for it that I will have to share later in its own video. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you what I do now, and you can reference later videos if you actually want the recipe for what I'm talking about. So one of my favorite things to eat for breakfast is just a piece of flax toast. I go ahead and make it. I food prep it maybe every couple of weeks, and then I just eat one slice every morning. I usually toast it a couple of times. I usually toast it a couple times because it is super frozen. Also, life hack, put candles in a cupcake for your kid, like just for fun, and sing happy birthday to him. He absolutely loves it. I've been doing it for Leo for the last few weeks, and like maybe once or twice a week we'll have a birthday, and he absolutely loves it. Highly recommend it if you have a toddler. The Kite Hill almond milk alternative cream cheese is my absolute favorite one. I think it tastes the best. I think its texture is the best. The everything bagel one is absolutely amazing. I also like the plain. Typically, if I use the plain one, I put nuts and some brown sugar alternative on top of it, and that tastes really good too. So when I do have my breakfast in the morning, I always have some kind of hot drink. Sometimes it's tea, sometimes it's decaffeinated coffee. If I do drink tea, it's definitely decaffeinated. I found caffeine was a trigger right around lupus diagnosis, so I have not had fully caffeinated anything in years. These are the collagen peptides I use. I've tried a lot of different brands, and honestly, I can't tell a difference between brands. So if you have a brand that you absolutely love, go for it. But this definitely makes my joints feel better every day. I usually just take a scoop and then put it directly in my cup. And then when you pour the hot water on top of it, you don't even have to stir. The collagen blends in perfectly, dissolving completely, and you can't taste it. So this is what a normal everyday breakfast would look like for me. So ever since COVID hit, we conduct all of our team meetings at lunchtime over Zoom calls. So typically what I do is I go home and I just make my lunch during the Zoom call. I make a lot of stir fries. Sometimes I'll have soup and salad or more flax bread, but this is what I've been eating recently, and it's just kale green stir fried with mushrooms and then a little bit of goat cheese, and then this vegan chickenless seasoning salt from Trader Joe's. It's really good. I'm not vegan, clearly, but that is really good to have on things. And then if I haven't had protein yet that day, I usually throw in an egg or two with that. So I'm probably gonna save this over and over again, but it's really important to cook with either avocado oil, grapeseed oil, or coconut oil if you're going to stir fry things. Things like butter or olive oil, they have a much lower slow point, and they can actually cause inflammation in the body if you use them to fry anything in, from eggs to vegetables, anything like that. So once I switched over to using coconut oil or avocado oil, I prefer avocado oil honestly because it doesn't have any kind of taste at all. But once I switched over, I could notice a significant difference in my pain level every day. So highly recommend switching to avocado oil. It's about the same cost as olive oil, so it's usually an easy switch. So I usually go ahead and turn it on kind of a higher setting to get the pan nice and hot. Then I put a lot of avocado oil in usually. Next I put the mushrooms in just to kind of brown the edges. Then I get those nice and fried. So once they're going and looking like they're probably pretty browned on one side, then I go ahead and add my kale. So with kale, you can add a good bit because it cooks down to almost nothing because it's a good percentage water. Because I like my mushrooms pretty well done, sauteed, browned, whatever you want to call it, I usually keep them on the bottom so that they can keep browning while the kale is cooking down. So once I do that, I go ahead and I put a lid, oh, there's me, look at me, hi. I go ahead and I put a lid on it, and then I let it cook for maybe 1 to 2 minutes. So I figured out how to make the pot not spin. We'll see if it works. So that was probably more like 3 to 4 minutes, but this is what you want it to look like. You want it to look like it's nice and cooked down, like nothing is really raw anymore or crunchy. The bottoms, if they start to look browned, that's even better. And as you can see here, the mushrooms are burn myself. The mushrooms are exactly how I like them. So at this point, I put seasoning on it. I'm going to use this one. And then another thing I've been liking to do recently is just putting like a tablespoon or 2 of goat cheese on as well. I put it directly on because that actually browns nicely in the pan as well. Then if I hadn't had any protein yet that day, I usually do an egg or 2. I'm just doing 1 right now. And then I usually just scramble that on the side. It's okay if the other stuff gets in with it. That is kind of working, kind of. And then once it's done, you can see I have this gorgeous lunch that will keep me full all day because of the dark greens and the protein. So another thing to note is that your body has to run on fuel. It has to run on either fat, carbs, or protein. I have lupus nephritis, so a high protein diet is not necessarily a good idea for me. Since I am intolerant of gluten, all grains, and potatoes, my only carb source is fruit, which I do eat fruit. I eat a lot of fruit. Been called fruit bat before. But still, I do not eat enough fruit throughout the day to be able to get most of my energy off the carbs. So that leaves fat, because fat is my primary fuel source. I either put a lot of olive oil on things or avocado. Animal fats do not react great to me. If I have more than 3 eggs a day, it starts not reacting great to me. Also, beef fat or chicken fat is not very good with my body. Fish fat is okay, but typically for me, coconut oil, avocado, or olive oil are the best way for me to get my fats. That being the case, a meal like this, typically I'll have some kind of avocado with it. Usually I'll take an entire half an avocado and slice it and just have it on the side of this. Something that you guys may not know is how to pick and ripen the perfect avocado. I'll tell you real quick. You have an avocado in the store, you want to pick them green, you want them to have absolutely 0 give while they're in the store. However, when they come home, you want to put them on the counter, not in the fridge, something typically with other fruit, because other fruit release chemicals, I forget which one. It is a ripening chemical. Usually takes 2 to 3 days on the counter for an avocado to ripen perfectly. Once it does ripen perfectly, you can tell because the avocado will either be very dark brown or black. It should have minimal give and it should be very heavy. If there are any soft spots throughout the avocado, you've probably waited too long. I always ripen 3 or 4 at a time and then just put them in the fridge to be ready. This is a perfectly ripened avocado and it is going to be absolutely delicious on my stir fry. Look how good, oh my God. Usually I put something like this, a little bit on the avocado as well. And there's lunch. Typically in the afternoons, I have some kind of snack. I don't usually snack in between breakfast and lunch, but in the afternoons I will have a snack. This kind of peanut butter is my absolute favorite. It is Valencia from Trader Joe's. There's some kind of mold that grows in the shell of peanuts, and the Valencia peanuts don't have that mold, and it can be damaging to your stomach to have peanut butter made with other kinds of peanuts. So if you look for the word Valencia, you're probably good. With the ingredients, it is only Valencia organic peanuts and sea salt. Honey Crisp apples are my absolute favorite kind of apple. I usually have one every single day. I don't usually suffer from cold-like symptoms, so the phrase an apple a day keeps the doctor away, I definitely believe in that. I highly encourage you to find some kind of fruit that you really, really love and just make a commitment to yourself to have it every single day, because fruit is seriously so good for you. If I have more of a sweet tooth, which let's face it, I always do, I will have one of these pure protein bars. Only 2 grams of sugar. These, I got 2 of them. These 2 are my favorite. The birthday cake, if I'm really feeling sweet stuff, or the chocolate peanut butter. This is kind of like a Reese's cup. Kind of has the texture, both of them kind of have the texture of a cake pop, so I really enjoy them. Also, if you haven't had a cake pop in like 8 years, then you know a lot of things that don't actually have the texture of cake pops will make you think that they are. So one thing that is more of a quick dinner for me is to have salmon. I usually have it with either sauteed asparagus or sauteed or roasted cauliflower. Some kind of cruciferous vegetable that is cooked. Those are typically what I like to have together. So the secret to being able to pan sear a good piece of meat is to rinse and pat dry before you start any kind of marinade or you start cooking it. With most of my meat, I like to marinate it a little bit before I go ahead and cook it and at least bring it to room temperature. This is one of the things I've been really enjoying recently. This is also by Trader Joe's. I'm not even going to attempt to say all those words, but it is Japanese all-purpose seasoning and it is very good. So for this, I am going to marinate it a little bit in olive oil. And I'm going to let that sit to bring it to room temperature before I cook it. So when I have a large salmon steak like this, I like to go ahead and cut it up into 2, at least 2, depending on how big it is. Since I already know that I'm not going to be eating this whole thing, I like to go ahead and separate it. It also makes it faster to cook. So I've found the best way to cook fresh salmon is to lay it with the fish side down on the hot pan and then the scale side up first, just to get that nice and seared. If it makes that sound, you're doing it right. That's what you want. So they make these fantastic grease screens so that you don't get the air circulation that you would of a lid, but you kind of keep your counter from getting all nice and messy with all the oil spurting everywhere. So I don't know if you can tell through the screen, I'll go ahead and lift it, but when you see the bright orange turning into more of the cooked pink, when you see it go about halfway up, that's when you want to flip them over. So as you can see here, they're nice and hard and seared on the outside. And then again, you can watch the pink rise from the bottom. So you can see exactly how much it is cooking. I'll protect my counter again. So at this point, it is exactly how I want it. I'm going to take one of the salmon pieces and have it with that cauliflower that I made before. And then the other one goes directly into meal prep for another day. And that is what a typical dinner would look like. Typically, before I go to bed, I will have a cup of tea. My brother got me this. It's herbal, caffeine-free, true blueberry. I'm really enjoying it right now. So typically I have that. And if I'm still hungry or have a sweet tooth, I will have one cashew cookie. It's not always one, I'm not gonna lie, but I will teach you guys how to make them in future videos. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for my day on the plate. I do not count calories. I don't follow a specific diet, so it wasn't technically anything other than Tori's diet. I do try to stay away from starch, grains, dairies, and sugars. Fruit sugar doesn't really bother me unless it is refined. I can also do xylitol. Typically the starches and the grains are the ones that cause the most problem. Or if something definitely has refined sugars in it, that's where it can be rough. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Leave me a comment, like and subscribe if you would, and I will talk to you later. See ya.